Yes, I think that works. I think this time with audio and on the right stream, we just about managed to figure it out. Smash the like button for our appalling efforts. It took us 6 minutes to go live. But let me jump straight into it to make up for lost time. And we, of course, are at election day. You Yanks get to vote. And I want to tell you it doesn't matter. No, of course it does matter. In fact, we have JP Morgan's takedown of what's going to happen to what stock and what sector, depending on which way you're going to vote today. And you can't hear me? I think you can hear me now, right? I think at least my indicators are indicating a set. In the library or the bank, yes, I broke into the bank this morning, and I'm back in my old study, which is perhaps missing a light at this time of the day, but it's quite cozy in here. So let's jump straight into it. The S&P tends to do very well during every presidency except for George W. Bush. And that probably had more to do with 9/11 and so on. And the sort of post.com thing. It was just an unfortunate period of time to be president. Nixon also didn't have a great time. But other than that, the market has actually done tremendously well. And I think you could argue it doesn't bleeding matter who's in the White House from a stock market point of view, right? Abdullah, you're very kind. Thank you very much. So this, of course, is also something we want to talk about. Palantir here, absolutely flying. $47.25 pre-market as I took the screenshot here, heading towards $50. We'll get into that in a moment. Let's talk election investing first. If you want to benefit from this and any of the trends I'm about to explain to you, and you want to pick those great big winners as they happen, well, watch my free masterclass straight after this, because I'll teach you how to spot those big winners and therefore potentially beat the market. And this is where we are right now. These are an aggregate of all the polls out there. And yes, it is the New York Times who aggregated them, so maybe they're leaning slightly towards the Harris crowd. But if you look at that, Trump leading in Pennsylvania, or actually even leading slightly in North Carolina, Michigan, Harris leading, Nevada, Trump's leading slightly. Trump's leading in Georgia, Harris in Wisconsin, Arizona seems to be more clearly for Trump. So actually it looks very, very close. Now, polls are polls and who knows what they say. But from last week, it would appear that Democrats made some inroads there after an appalling month for Democrats the previous month. So do we know which way it's going to go? Atlas were the guys who were insanely accurate in 2020. I mean, most polls are bollocks, but these guys got it pretty right. And they are predicting a pretty clear Trump win. He's basically saying he's going to win every swing state, which would mean, definitely winning, which is, well, you may love, you may hate. I don't particularly care. But from a stock market point of view, I'm going to explain to you what it says is going to happen here. So JP Morgan has put this out. And before we look at that, we need to fortify ourselves with our sponsor today, GAC Juice. That is a joke, by the way. You will never find a sponsor on this channel. If we ever stoop that low, tell me to stop. Don't worry, it's not going to happen. But this juice is very delicious. I ship it in from the Philippines. And it cures cancer. There you go. YouTube's just delisted me completely. It doesn't cure cancer, but there are lots of studies on it that basically show it literally shrinks cancers, which is pretty cool. And the thing that does it is lipocaroteins. And GAC is the thing you find the most in. They're also in tomatoes, but not to the same extent. So if we get a red sweep, which is what Wall Street wants. Wall Street and investment bankers generally like Republicans, right? They earn a lot of money and they want to pay very little tax. They don't like regulation. So we're looking at, tax reductions, deregulation, Benefiting should be energy, banking, industrials, transportation. So if you work in banking, well, you're quite likely to like it, right? So that's what they're kind of looking at there. But there could be some inflationary pressures from lots of tariffs. So that's definitely something to look at. And then if you look at a blue sweep, be less favorable for equities, as they say. So stocks might, according to JP Morgan, stocks might drop up to 3% if it's a clear Kamala Harris victory. Who would it be good for? Green energy, sort of healthcare stuff. It might actually be good for some multinationals who source a lot of their stuff overseas, right? Because no tariffs, they can keep doing what they're currently doing. A divided government, well, doesn't really give us very much. We're sort of status quo. Yeah, so you wouldn't really expect a great deal happening there. But if you want to go a little bit deeper here, which we always do, of course, in our community here, this is what JP Morgan is saying. They're saying energy is going to love it. Loosened regulation on fossil fuels, so oil and gas and pipelines should do tremendously well. Insurance might do well, just less regulation could be very, very good for them. Carlos, you ordered some gag juice. Yeah, this stuff is something like 70 US a bottle or something, which is more expensive than a whiskey, right? But much more healthy. So yeah, if you look at here, red sweep winners, right? This is the real detail. Energy, which should benefit. Insurance should. Capital goods. So anything from industrial equipment, machinery, infrastructure, that whole thing should benefit if Trump goes in and says everything needs to be built in the US and sourced in the US and that kind of thing. So you could see a lot more capital investment, a lot more just investment in industrials, which could be good for that sector. And then yeah, just basically anything made in the US should do pretty well. Domestic car manufacturers, to the extent that they are actually domestically producing and not just shipping stuff in and slapping wheels on them. But there could be some input inflation for the industrial sector as well. Some materials could go up, rare earths and so on could go up. And also bear in mind, all the guys receiving all those big subsidies at the moment, think the car companies, that might disappear and therefore could actually hurt them, right? From Felix and Juice, maybe, exactly. It is very good. I'm sure you can get a tablet or something, which is, what's the ingredient? Lipocarotenes. I'm sure you can get the powder or something. I just like the natural stuff. And if the blue lot win, then they think software might benefit. Although Democrats expanding broadband access. Didn't they spend like $2 billion on that or something? And didn't they connect a single home? Something ludicrous like that. So, I mean, just don't rely on the government to build stuff, really. But yeah, I think either way, software will do well. Semiconductors, I think that will also do well, actually, under both parties. But JP Morgan says CHIPS Act and so on, they might get more funding. There are rumors around an Intel government bailout. And then definitely the green stuff green stocks would benefit more under a Kamala regime, solar, wind, battery storage, that kind of thing. Healthcare, you're probably going to get more government involvement, more subsidies there. And then also child tax credits. Who does that benefit? Think Procter and Gamble. Think, kind of education stuff, retail stuff that mums buy. That could benefit. So the sort of stuff that the lower and middle income groups buy on a daily basis, that could do quite well from that lot. But this is what happens on election day. These are the last, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 elections, and it's not that much, right? It's not actually that exciting, except when Barak came into power the first time around. That was quite a boost for whatever reason. Other than that, it's fairly uneventful. So Look at George Bush, you got 0 and 0, poor guy. He just had bad timing, honestly, very bad timing. If you want to improve your timing and pick winners, big juicy winners of stock charts, then literally learn how to do it. There is a free stocks masterclass. This is for investors. This is for traders. Same rules apply. Just watch it. It's free of charge. Thousands of you already have watched it, which I absolutely love. So check that out. Got a few Trump voters on here. Should we do a poll? I think we should probably do a poll, right? Start a poll. Who are you voting for today? Trump, Harris? Should we have a not voting? Yeah, let's try that. Let's see how we are. I have a feeling there is a slight Republican-leaning nature in the online, well, just in the finance community, generally speaking. Speaking of finance community, Palantir, wow, what a set of earnings. I'll put out a video on that later in its full, unadulterated detail, but it really is something to behold. They smashed the other park, trading at $48.54 right now. Above the expected move now, which is about $47. Resistance we're going to hit will be at 50. That's courtesy of Trade Vision. Yeah, they just did everything. I mean, they just did everything right, including Alex's funny remarks. It's definitely worth watching. So yeah, what can I say? Honestly, it's that good. There's really not a lot to say. They just absolutely knocked it out of the park, beat expectations by so much that the market can't say, well, you've got too expensive now. No, they're basically saying there will be AI winners, and then they'll be using Palantir, and everybody else will just go and die, basically. More votes than likes. Let's see that. 56% Trump, 22% Harris, 20% of voting. So they're not voting a lot. Is that non-Americans? Is that where this is skewing it? It's quite so much. But yeah, we seem to be a fairly Trump-leading crowd. You know, actually, I had a chat today with a good friend, and he's Canadian, and he said, if I put a gun to your head, who would you vote for? And I sort of ran through some of the reasons I disliked both candidates, and then I kind of said, well, I pretty had to. I think from my experience in living in different places and living in Europe and so on. The place I grew up in Germany used to be insanely safe. Like we would, as children, play in the park in the dark. My parents would not worry. We had no supervision. You can't do that anymore because it is no longer safe. And the sole reason for that is unchecked migration. And I'm an immigrant, right, where I live generally, but I did it legally. So I just think security is what gives us freedom, particularly for women. But also for guys, obviously, to a lesser extent, though, it's not quite as threatening. So a government that doesn't deliver that, in my view, has failed. And I think they should do nothing else but just deliver security. If they deliver security, everything else pretty much follows because business can, generally speaking, do most things better than the government. So I guess that's where I come from. But originally, I used to be a member of a German political party. It was called the Liberal Party. But they were very much sort of small government, but everybody can do whatever they want kind of thing. So, I'm not a conservative person at heart, but I'm not a particular fan of Trump. But I think what's happened in the US over the last, 4 years in terms of immigration and crime and so on, I think it's idiotic. I think it's just really idiotic. Although I do think a country with 300 million brilliant people, you would have perhaps come up with 2 better candidates. But there you are. It's your choice. So Winston 2028, yeah, that would be something, isn't it? And packets and berries, I agree with you. I think that's just the one thing. You do that right, and there really is no problem. And your children grow up happy and safe, and they can play with one another, and most problems actually go away. And I'm a big believer in this whole broken glass theory, which was kind of the old British style of policing. You just deal with every small indiscretion and crime, and therefore everything is fine. once you let that slide, you have youths like emptying shelves and the whole thing falls apart and everyone does whatever they want. So there we are. Harris wasn't chosen, she was displaced. It's true. And maybe that's why she isn't a particularly great candidate. Although Trump is by no means, the perfect candidate either, right? But there you go. You got a decision to make over there. I thankfully don't. I just got to look at how do we make money out of this, right? And if I look at that, then I think ultimately, yes, there will be some trades and energy and insurance and so on that we can make some money out of. I think the market will do slightly better in the weeks after a Trump victory than a Harris victory. But in the long run, and we looked at that yesterday, in the long run, where is that chart from yesterday? Here it is. In the long run, you just have to realize the government does not control the market. So no matter who wins, we're going to make a lot of money in the next 4 years. We're going to make sure that our families never have to do something that they don't want to, that they never have to work, that they'll be financially free, and we're going to enjoy life. So let me show you the chart. Where did my chart go? Here is the chart, you see. I think got some strong views here in the chat, Jason. I appreciate that. I do. I'm a strong believer in free speech and in freedom, and I think you can have security at the same time. It's never going to be perfect, but I think, why do I not live in London, say? I think crime's a problem, quite frankly. Even in the really nice areas, I know people who got stabbed because they were wearing a nice watch. Everybody I know there, they don't walk around with decent clothes and decent shoes and decent coats and decent watches because it isn't safe. And that didn't used to be that way. And it's a complete failing of government. So I think you've got to fix that. You've got to have police walking on the street. And the police needs to know the neighborhoods, and they need to know the shops, and they need to know the people who live there. If you have that, you fix the problem. But I don't know why that hasn't happened. It'll probably swing around. Everybody go out and vote CSL. That's probably a good thing to do this morning. The markets are looking actually quite happy. Big tech is up slightly. Doesn't really matter for them. They'll make money either way. Tesla's up 1.8%, which is quite a nice little rebound. Let's have a look at that chart there. Palantir, of course, is absolutely flying after staggeringly wonderful earnings yesterday. Where's Gerald the dog? Winston, a little friend, he's sleeping next door. We just had a bit of fun in the park, which is good. Tesla at 247. Where is the resistance? It's at 300. There's a lot of room to rally there, but we got to take out these sort of pesky highs around 265, 270 first. Be interesting to see how Tesla stock reacts to how you guys are going to vote. Non-Americans here. Good day, mate, says Michael. Tim and Trump is really intelligent. Who's Tim? SMCI earnings prediction. That's going to be an interesting one, right? Rule of law is strong. I hope that's true. Is someone suing the people who put down that poor squirrel, killed, murdered, barbarously murdered that poor squirrel, Peanut, and his raccoon friend, which doesn't get enough screen time, it seems. Isn't that what your crazy legal system is for, that you sue the people who did it for $10 billion and bankrupt them? Can someone please go and do that? I'll sponsor it if you like. SMCI, I mean, it could be horrible, right? It could be tremendously horrible. Or it could be not as bad as we feared. The stock has dropped 50%. So it has to be really, really, truly horrific to drop some more. Bear in mind, this is, and I might be slightly off on this, but I think it's NVIDIA's 4th largest customer. So it does have some impact over there. RFK for president. You know what? I like that guy. I actually quite like that guy. I certainly agree with him on a lot of the agricultural policies and food policies and pharma and all of that. I think that guy is spot on. I don't know if he's a bit balmy generally, but certainly on those topics, he speaks a lot of sense. What worries me is people actually followed the orders, Ian. I know, right? I mean, why not just find that squirrel a freaking sanctuary? I mean, somebody would have been like, yeah, I'll take him. I've got a forest, right? It really wouldn't have been that hard. It is really, yeah, it's very upsetting, really. Imagine someone comes in and takes your dog and kills him because you didn't file a piece of paper or something, right? It's just horrible. I don't know who these people are who do that. SoFi is doing absolutely nothing at around $11, which is actually pretty sweet. And it has long periods of doing absolutely nothing if you look at the stock chart, and I quite like it. So don't expect sort of huge moves there at the moment. I think the news is in. The rate cut on Thursday should be good news for SoFi in my view. Hims, oh yes, also very impressive earnings. And I might say, I don't really understand the business. I sort of thought that they're going to get cut out as a sort of middleman of the fat drugs. But they do seem to be delivering some pretty staggering numbers there, trading at almost $22 right now. Resistance all the way up there at 25, so there's a bit of rally to go. I'd say I think it might see all-time highs again, given how good their earnings were and their projections. Palantir we just looked at, it's absolutely flying, which of course is freaking wonderful. Time Blue, oh, they collected $200,000. They're going to sue them, are they? I kind of honest. I'm not a fan of this whole like aggressive, militant, litigious system you guys got there in the US. But I think you're talking about pets. Yeah, just go for it. Gloves are off. Bankrupt the bastards, I say. If you like when stocks do nothing, you must love Disney. And we actually made a bit of money out of Disney. I did one Disney trade this year. Let's have a look at it. At the stock, rather. I mean, I wouldn't call that nothing. I'd call that massive capital destruction. But yeah, you're right. Since mid-2022, it's done absolutely bugger all. And that can be a glorious opportunity if you get a big breakout. But you've got these $120 highs here now, and that's significantly above where we are. So I'd say you'd need to get above those $120 highs, and then you might have a chance to go up to 177 again. But I don't know if the woke bastards will pull it off. Any trade ideas for post-election? Please keep politics out, says Thomas. I mean, you can't entirely, my friend, but I try not to get involved in it. There really is no point. I don't get to vote. But yes, trade ideas. All right, this is what JP Morgan says. They say buy energy, banking, industrials, and transport. If Trump wins, if Kamala wins, sorry, Harris, I should say, buy green energy and green energy. Basically, that's really that. Weizenmensch crimes exploding in Germany. Exactly, that's what I was saying. And Germany was a very, very safe place with very few exceptions when I grew up there. And now it's a cesspit. And it's, I'm sorry to say, it's just idiotic immigration policies. You can't let in, hundreds of thousands of millions of young men who've grown up in war zones who are Muslims, of the sort of fervent kind, and want to change your country and your rules. Like, you do that, then yeah, you got problems, and you're not going to fix it because they don't wish to be integrated, right? And I think it's just an unpopular truth, but that's the case. So you got to deal with that, or maybe just don't let in loads and loads of people without passports. It's literally easier to enter most Western countries nowadays without a passport than with one. It's baffling. I don't understand it. Obviously, somebody's going to make money out of that, so just follow the money. 1,000 viewers, says Kit. Appreciate you. 240 likes. So it's a bit like being a politician today, isn't it? The vast majority of people will always hate you. The market is open indeed. Let's have a look then at some of our favorites, not Disney. NVDA is the thing that makes the market. If I'm allowed to pull it up, NVIDIA, here we go. Oh, that's good. And we're trading slightly below the resistance line. Now that $140 resistance line there is not something that I made up. It is a feature in TradeVision where we show you literally the market makers' positions. So market makers will sell at 140, which is why it's been very hard to break through. So we're slightly below that, and therefore we are unlikely to have like big swings up. Is this the most racist comment? Who said something racist? Private prisons, that's a bad idea too. Private prisons, that's a really bad idea. Look at what that's done in the US. That's a terrible idea. What else we got today? We've got SoFi. The like button seems to be broken. Try it for yourself, Floaten. Appreciate you. I like the angle. SoFi at $11, sitting very smug and unlikely to do anything particularly exciting. Let's say the rate cut might benefit, well, it will benefit SoFi on Thursday, although that's kind of largely priced in. Alex, thanks for smashing the like button there too. PayPal, the $80 resistance was a bit too much. We had a bit of a fling with it. We flew higher and then we came back down to $78. But that's still pretty good considering yesterday. That's actually a slight gap up, right? Is that a gap up? Ever so slightly, I'd say. I'm still waiting for the candle here. Let's have a look on the minute chart here for PayPal. What's going on over there? That looks quite sweet, doesn't it? On the opening here, we're looking pretty good. So nice to see. I think their earnings were vastly misunderstood. Makes no sense why it dropped, to be honest with you. What about Intel? Will it recover? I think it's too early to say. They might get government bailout money. There's a rumor that they might. It's a $90 billion beast, right? Apple could have bought it with its buybacks. Right now, this is actually quite healthy. This sort of sideways consolidation, that really is quite healthy. And it's $20 resistance, support, $25 resistance. So the market's basically saying, we don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon until they, deliver something extraordinary. Christmas rally will start tomorrow. That's the plan. Although, if you get a Harris win, JP Morgan says we're going to go down 3%, up to 3%, which would probably be the greatest dip buying opportunity of the year. I'm going to finish a whole bottle of GAC here today. It'll be an expensive stream, $70. So how is our poll going? Trump is leading by a very, very wide margin, my friends. Sorry to say, Harris voters there. It does, of course, include the not voting lot, but even if you took those out, it is a more than 2-to-1 for Trump, which is interesting. I like dips. Who doesn't? Alex, you're very kind. Estee Lauder, yeah, they dropped the lipstick, didn't they? Started off with sort of poor management of China's supply. I mean, overstock and not seeing that I was going to slow down over there. And they haven't really recovered since. So Estee Lauder, once a glorious company that could do no wrong, was trading at $354. Now it's trading at $70. And by the looks of it, earnings were a freaking disaster, so it's still doing that. So what do you do with a stock like that? Well, you get out way earlier. Like, where would you have gotten out of this? If you were in this, say you bought it somewhere over here, where would you have gotten out? Well, let me show you where you should have gotten out. You should have connected the lows of that rally here, at least 3 of them, something like that. And you could have gotten out there, literally here, right? Because it broke below your trend. Now, maybe you were like, it's going to be fine. And then you went the next rally and then you connected the lows again here And then when you drop below that, you would have gotten out here at 350. There was no reason to endure the pain from 350 to 65.50. This is just self-flagellation. So if you want to learn how to do that, spot the breakouts and not do this nonsense, please, for the crying out loud, watch the masterclass I recorded for you. There it is, felixfriends.org/get free, and you will never do that stupid thing again because it's avoidable. Carp for US president. I know. I also think we should keep Carp over there, and that's also my only concern with Elon is that Elon goes off on government. Is he going to be focused? Although he is one of the top 20 Diablo players in the world, which I understand is a computer game. So the man obviously has too much time. So maybe he can shave 30% of the US government out. And I think that would actually be a good thing. I think that'd be a very good thing. Get rid of all that waste and stuff. And Scott, I think there's something in that. I always thought a government of sort of genuinely capable people would be a nice thing. The problem is that democracy doesn't really encourage you to vote those people in because they're usually quite weird and quirky and boring, and they're not willing to spend decades of their life in opinion polls. So you very rarely get to elect them. Is Palantir going back to $22? Did you see the earnings report? No, I think that ship has sailed. Unless you get some sort of massive AI crash. I mean, that's always possible. But right now, the party is on. We're at $48.30. Rogan endorsed Trump. I did, yes, he did that today, which is well timed, I'm sure. He has a pretty big following. I don't know how many of those are going to be swayed by him. But yeah, it'd be very interesting 24 hours coming up here. Eugenio, hello there. Appreciate you tuning in. The greatest opportunity to change government in history, says Scott. Scott's pumped. I like that. I like your energy, Scott. I think generally the sort of Twitter treatment, get rid of 90% of the people and the product is better, is probably definitely true for government. It's true for most companies. This is how we're looking right now. So I would say the market, if you look at purely this, the market is looking pretty optimistic at the elections here, right? Everything is basically up. They're basically saying we don't care all that much. Note that energy is not rallying, so they don't expect a huge boost. Tesla is up 3.3%. Let's have a look at that. That'll be very nice for our Tesla trades. Here is Tesla at $251. Nice. Be nice to close above 250. And my friend, who's that? EL Chill Zones. You think EL is a buy? Let me find it. If you are considering buying something just because it's down, I don't know, 80% or something like that, right? And you're thinking, oh, it's gotten cheaper. It's so cheap, it can't possibly get any cheaper. Well, that's what the people thought who were buying at 270. And the people who bought at 240 and the people who bought at 170. You don't buy falling knives. Please, please, please watch the free masterclass I recorded for you. It's for this very specific purpose, that you never buy a falling knife like this again. You never a bag holder again. Instead, you buy things that are going up explosively at a very, very high likelihood. So go to felixfriends.org/get free and watch it. It'll take you about 30 minutes and you will never look at a stock chart quite the same way again. Neil, do you support Bayer Leverkusen? I just read Bayer and I thought, what, those Monsanto bastards? And then I read the next bit. No, I don't. I left Germany when I was 15. I don't have a football affiliation to anywhere there. So no, I don't. I wish your Liverpool team all the best. Beat the bloody Krauts, I say. Do you think if Kamala wins, there'll be a dip? JP Morgan thinks there could be up to a 3% dip. Probably a little bit less than that. But yeah, I think there'll be a little bit of a dip. falling inside avoidance. Falling knife avoidance. Yeah, literally avoid falling knives, my friend, and life is so much better. And just buy things that go up, and they don't always go up. Like I was looking at this trade here, for example, last week. Let me open it up again. PALL, which is Palladium. And it had all the hallmarks of a beautiful breakout here. One gap up, two gaps up, lots of volume. And guess what? Right now it hasn't really done anything. And that happens sometimes, but it might still. And that's okay. We set a stop loss. Worst case scenario, we're like 6% down in a trade. It really doesn't matter. We got other trades that are like massively up. So we want to find stuff like this here, where you have a big, beautiful, shiny breakout here, rallies up nicely, it consolidates a little bit, gives you a second chance and keeps going up. And that's a trade I've got open, for example. And that entry, my friends, was predictable. It was predictable. It was textbook. It gave you all the clues you ever wanted, but you need to know the clues. So watch the masterclass and you know the clues. It is free. What if Trump goes to jail in 2 weeks? Well, if he's elected, you won't. Xavi Alonso, a buyer. Okay, I don't know that. Precious metals seem to get manipulated. Yes. Just Google silver and JP Morgan, and there's some interesting reading over there. Are there tampons in Hong Kong men's bathrooms? No. No, I had to read that twice. No. Why? I mean, why? Why would there be? That would be very weird, wouldn't it? That'd be very weird. Did your AI trend screen issue a sell warning for Palantir yesterday? It did. Yes, it did. Before the earnings, the stock dropped something like 2%. So that made a lot of sense, actually. So first of all, an indicator is an indicator, right? It's never going to be 100% right. But you want to still know human trading rules. But if you look at what's actually gone on there, and the dip we saw here, even on the 31st, where did it call the exit? Yeah, it's here at 41.41. So was that a good call? Yeah, I think that was the prudent call, to be honest with you. I think it actually was. Now, didn't know that it was going to rally the next day, gloriously as it is, to $49. We might hit 50 today. But it's still, I don't see it as a defect, you see. It's a bit like, you see here, we called it a buy at 22 something, and then it dipped. So we exited here, and then it dipped, and then we entered again. And yeah, okay, you missed 50 cents or something. But that drop here below the 50-day moving average line could have been ugly. We could have gone down $10, right? In which case you would have been like, well, blimey, I'm glad I'm out. So you can never look at risk management with the benefit of hindsight. You've got to make a decision, and you've got to have rules that are based on the information available at the time. So I will always exit when my risk management says exit. And I think you could have exited sooner, actually. I think the prudent thing probably would have been trend line and getting out 2 days earlier in the sort of 42 range here, because that was the point where we dropped off the rally trend. So that's what I would have done. Deutsche Bank still says strong still. Okay, well, those guys haven't got a freaking clue. And of course, it doesn't mean you have to exit. It just depends on your time horizon, right? If your time horizon is a week, then probably prudent to exit. If your time horizon is 10 years, then it doesn't bloody matter whether it dips, does it? So there we are, my friends. I wish you a glorious election day. If you're considering spending an entire day watching polls, I'd suggest you go and watch my masterclass instead, because if you do that, you'll actually be smarter, you'll make more money, you can teach people the rules, whereas if you watch polls, well, they're probably wrong. and you will get the right result when it comes out anyway. So head over to felixschwanzer.org/get-free and get smarter and get wiser and make your money work harder for you, which is surely what this is all about, so you don't have to work so hard. And I thank you very much for tuning in. I wish you a glorious day, and I'd be very excited to see who's your next El Presidente. And there we are. Thanks, guys. Thanks there in the